You spend 3 years dreaming of a front door. Mine was white, with a brass handle that caught the sunlight just right. In the desert, I used to close my eyes and picture it, me turning that handle, walking in, smelling Grace's perfume, hearing the faint hum of her music from the kitchen. That door was my promise. My anchor. The day I finally came home, I almost didn't recognize my own street. The trees were taller, the mailbox a little rusted. But the house, my house, still stood like a memory frozen in amber. It should have been the happiest day of my life. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. I hadn't told Grace I was coming home early. I wanted to surprise her. I imagined her face, that little gasp, the way she used to run into my arms, the way she'd hold me so tight I could feel her heartbeat through her skin. I parked at the curb, still in my uniform, still smelling of sand and diesel. The air tasted clean for the first time in years. But when I walked up to the porch, something felt wrong. There were 2 pairs of shoes by the door. One set I recognized, her white sneakers. The other was a man's. Size 11, mud dried on the soles. For a moment, my brain refused to process it. Maybe her brother? Maybe a neighbor? But then I saw it, a black leather jacket slung over the chair by the window. I'd seen that jacket 100 times before. Derek's. My best friend. We'd grown up together, enlisted together. But a month before deployment, he'd torn his ACL and never shipped out. He'd been the one who promised me he'd check in on Grace, make sure she was okay while I was gone. And he had. Apparently a little too well. The house smelled the same, lavender candles, coffee, faint traces of her shampoo. My boots felt heavy against the wooden floor. I heard voices upstairs. Hers. And his. Muffled, laughing softly. Every instinct I'd sharpened in war, every ounce of discipline, told me to back away, to breathe, to think. But I walked up those stairs anyway, one by one, feeling my pulse in my fingertips. The bedroom door was half open. I pushed it. Grace stood by the window, wearing one of my shirts. Her hand went instinctively to her stomach, round, unmistakable. 6 months. Maybe 7. Her face drained of color when she saw me. She didn't scream. She didn't even speak. She just stared, like I was a ghost she'd buried long ago. Behind her, the closet door creaked. A man's voice, low, startled. Grace? Whose? Derek stepped out, shirtless, pale as death when he saw me. I didn't say a word. Didn't yell. Didn't hit him. I just looked at him, my friend, my brother in arms, the man who'd eaten at my table, toasted my wedding. And I walked out. I remember the crunch of gravel under my boots as I went to my truck. I remember Grace calling after me, voice cracking, begging me to stop. But I didn't. That night, I slept in the cab of my pickup in front of the house. The same house I'd paid for with combat pay. The same one I'd promised would be our home forever. The porch light flickered all night, like it couldn't decide whether to burn out or hold on. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just stared. The war hadn't broken me, but this might. When dawn came, she came out, barefoot, wrapped in a blanket. Her hair was messy, eyes red. She stood on the porch for a long time before speaking. Cole, please, she whispered. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I almost laughed. How was it supposed to happen, Grace? You get bored waiting, so you replace me with my best friend? You think I'd never find out? Her lip trembled. I thought you were dead. Then you should have mourned me, I said quietly. Not slept with him. She flinched. I didn't mean for you to find out this way. I looked at her stomach. How far along? 26 weeks, she said. Her voice cracked. Cole, I'm sorry. I started the engine. The roar of it drowned her out. As I drove away, I caught my reflection in the mirror, a stranger's face. They say the battlefield changes you. Maybe it does. But betrayal? That's another kind of war entirely. Over the next weeks, the paperwork came, lawyers, divorce filings, settlement offers. She wanted the house, said she'd earn stability for the child. I didn't contest. I didn't want the walls that held our ghosts. I moved into a small apartment above a mechanic's shop. The nights were long, filled with silence that buzzed in my ears. Sometimes I'd wake up thinking I heard mortars, but it was only my heartbeat. People told me to move on. But how do you move on from someone who tore out the part of you that believed in love? The divorce finalized 2 months later. She kept the house. He kept her. I kept the memories, and a vow I never said out loud. They took everything good from me. I'll make sure they feel what I felt. It wasn't rage, not exactly. More like a quiet calculation, a soldier's focus. I'd lost every war I hadn't planned for. This one, I would. And then, one night, scrolling aimlessly through Facebook, I saw her name again, Grace Anderson, tagged in a photo from a baby shower. Standing beside her, smiling wide, was a woman I'd never seen before. Brooke Lawson. Long brown hair, gentle eyes. Caption read, couldn't have survived these last 3 years without my best friend Red Heart. My finger hovered over the screen. Revenge, when it comes, doesn't look like fire. It looks like opportunity, quiet, patient, waiting. And for the first time since I'd come home, I felt alive again. Revenge didn't start with fire. It started with a friend request. Brooke Lawson. 31. 3rd grade teacher. Lives 15 miles from me. Her profile was quiet, photos of sunrises, book stacks, classroom crafts, and the occasional wine glass on a porch. Nothing like Grace's feed of filtered smiles and fake perfection. But they were close. I saw it in the comments, the tags, the inside jokes. Brooke had been there through everything, birthdays, ultrasounds, baby showers. Grace's rock. So I figured, if Grace leaned on her through my absence, maybe I could lean on her now. For different reasons. At first, I just watched. Weeks went by before I clicked add friend. I didn't expect her to accept. But 2 hours later, the notification popped up. Brooke Lawson accepted your request. And that's how it began, a message here, a comment there. Polite, harmless. I made sure to seem distant, reserved. She asked about the military, said she'd always admired men in uniform. I told her the truth, that war changes people. That some nights I still wake up hearing things that aren't there. She didn't flinch. She wrote, I teach kids whose dads don't come home. You're one of the lucky ones. Don't waste the second chance. The words hit harder than I expected. This wasn't supposed to feel personal. Over time, our chats turned longer. She had a dry sense of humor and a way of listening that made silence comfortable. I found myself waiting for her replies, something I hadn't done for anyone since before deployment. I never mentioned Grace. Never mentioned Derek. But Brooke did, unknowingly. She'd write things like, I used to hang out with this couple, Grace and Derek. They seemed perfect at first, but lately, I don't know. Something's off. Each message was another spark to the fuse. Grace was still with Derek, still living in my house, still pretending her life was picture perfect. But Brooke was different. Genuine. Honest. Maybe too honest. She told me about her students, her dog, her love for old records and blueberry pancakes. She had this habit of sending random photos, a messy kitchen, a sunset drive, the inside of a bookstore. Nothing staged. Just real. And that scared me. Because I started to forget why I'd messaged her in the first place. One Friday night, she wrote, You should come to the community fair next weekend. My class is running a booth. We could finally meet, if you're comfortable, of course. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. Sure. Why not? The fair was crowded, kids screaming, popcorn popping, cheap music over loudspeakers. I spotted her by the lemonade stand, laughing with a group of parents. When she turned and saw me, her face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in years. Brooke. And for a second, Grace vanished completely from my head. She waved, brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, and said, So, you're the mysterious soldier who keeps pretending he doesn't like small talk. I smirked. I'm better at long silences. She laughed, an unguarded, beautiful sound. The conversation flowed easily. We talked about simple things, her students, my work, the price of gas, how bad fair food really is. She had this way of making ordinary moments feel like they mattered. And then, casually, she said something that almost stopped my heart. You know, it's funny, you remind me of someone. My friend's ex-husband, actually. His name was Cole too. I froze, but kept my tone light. Small world. She nodded, unconcerned. Yeah. He was in the army too. Grace said he changed. Came back different. Changed. That's what Grace told her? Not cheated, not lied? No, she rewrote the story, turned me into the villain who couldn't handle life after war. I smiled tightly. I think everyone changes after what they've seen. Brooke looked at me like she understood. And maybe she did. We started meeting more often after that. Coffee shops. Parks. She'd bring books, I'd bring sarcasm. It became a routine, one I didn't realize I was addicted to until she missed a week because of a school field trip. When she texted, I miss our talks, something inside me twisted. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to matter. I told myself it was still part of the plan, that someday Grace would find out I was dating her best friend and it would break her the way she broke me. That was the point. The justice. But late one night, after a few too many whiskeys, Brooke sent me a photo, her sitting cross-legged on her couch, wearing an oversized sweatshirt, hair messy, smile soft. The kind of photo Grace would have deleted instantly for not being perfect. And for the first time in 3 years, I smiled too. By winter, I deleted the fake account and told her my real name, minus the connection to Grace. It felt like confession. She said, "You seem like someone who's been hurt but still chooses to be kind. That's rare." Kind? I almost laughed at the irony. But every time I looked at her, I saw less of Grace's shadow and more of who I used to be before the betrayal, before revenge started running my veins like poison. The plan blurred. The lines crossed. I wasn't sure what I wanted anymore. Revenge felt childish. Brooke felt real. So when she leaned against me one night on the hood of my truck, stars scattered above us, and whispered, "You ever think about starting over?" I whispered back, "Every day." And I meant it. But every story built on a lie eventually starts to crack. A few weeks later, while we were making dinner together, her laughing at my hopeless attempt to cook, she got a call. She frowned, stepped into the hallway, and answered. I caught only fragments. "Yeah, I know." "No, I didn't. He's nothing like that." "Grace, stop." Her tone sharpened. "I'm not doing this again. You can't control who I." Then silence. When she came back, she forced a smile. "Sorry. Friend drama." But her eyes said more than she wanted them to. Grace had found out. And for the first time since coming home, I wasn't sure which terrified me more, that my plan was working, or that I didn't want it to anymore. I used to believe the hardest part of war was coming home. I was wrong. The hardest part was falling in love again, and knowing it was built on a lie. By the time spring came, Brooke had become the rhythm of my life. Her laughter filled spaces that had been silent for years. Her apartment smelled like vanilla candles and fresh paint. She left sticky notes on my dashboard that said things like, "Stop frowning. You're alive." Every time she did, a voice in my head whispered, "She doesn't know who you are." But I pushed it away. The lie had become background noise, like the ringing in my ears from old explosions. Always there, but easier to ignore. Until the night everything unraveled. We were at my place, the small apartment above the mechanic's shop that still smelled faintly of oil and coffee. Brooke was looking through a box of old photos I hadn't touched in years. "Can I see these?" she asked, already flipping through them before I could answer. "Go ahead," I said lightly, half distracted making coffee. The photos were harmless, deployment shots, buddies from base, a few blurry sunsets. But buried beneath them was one picture I'd forgotten existed. My wedding day. Grace's white dress. Derek's smug grin as my best man. And me, oblivious, smiling like a fool. Brooke froze. I saw the color drain from her face before I even turned around. Her voice came out small. This is Grace." I closed my eyes. "Brooke." She looked up, disbelief twisting into horror. "And you're him. Cole Anderson. Her ex-husband?" There it was. The bomb I'd been building for months, and it detonated right between us. She stood, backing away like she'd touched fire. "You knew who I was this whole time." "Yes," I said quietly. "At first, yes. But, at first?" Her voice cracked. "So what changed, Cole? The part where you decided to keep lying? Or the part where you thought sleeping with your ex-wife's best friend would even the score?" I tried to step closer. She flinched like I'd raised a weapon. "I never wanted to hurt you," I said. "It started as revenge, I won't lie about that. But then, it stopped being about her. It became about you." Her laugh was hollow. "Do you even hear yourself? You used me to hurt someone else. That's not love. That's just a different kind of cruelty." She grabbed her coat, tears cutting through her mascara. "I believed every word you said. Every late night, every story about wanting to heal. You let me fall for a ghost." I didn't stop her when she slammed the door. I couldn't. Because she was right. For weeks, I didn't hear from her. Her silence hurt worse than anything Grace or Derek ever did. But Grace, she didn't stay silent long. Word spreads fast in small towns, especially when one woman is eager to spread it. She called me one night. I shouldn't have answered. Her voice came sharp, smug. "So, I heard about you and Brooke. Guess karma really is poetic, huh?" I clenched my jaw. "Grace, don't." "Oh, relax," she purred. "I just find it hilarious. You thought you could use my friend to get back at me? Poor Brooke. She's too nice to see what a manipulative bastard you are." I hung up. But she didn't stop. She called Brooke, texted her, sent screenshots, twisted every piece of truth until it dripped poison. Told her I'd planned everything, that I bragged about it, that I laughed behind her back. Soon enough, people started whispering. At the coffee shop, at the hardware store, even at the gym, eyes following me like I was some kind of monster. Grace had always been talented at rewriting stories. And Brooke believed her. Why wouldn't she? By summer, I'd lost everything again. Brooke blocked my number. Grace and Derek filed a legal claim, saying part of my house and savings were joint marital assets from the time before deployment. I knew it was bogus. But fighting it meant digging up more pain, more attention, and I was tired. Until I got a letter from the bank. It said Derek Miller had submitted authorization signatures for shared financial accounts, dated while I was overseas. My name was on them. My signature. Except it wasn't. I'd signed 1,000 documents in the army, and my pen strokes were consistent, tight, sharp. This one was round, sloppy, forged. I stared at it for a long time. Then I remembered something Brooke had said months earlier. I used to hang out with them a lot, but something's off about Derek. He's slippery. She was right. He wasn't just a thief of loyalty. He was a thief, period. I dug deeper, old files, tax records, title papers. There it was. He'd been siphoning off my paychecks during deployment, transferring funds through Grace's account. The betrayal had layers I hadn't even uncovered. That night, I drove past their house, my house, for the first time since the day I left it behind. The porch light was still flickering, same as it had that night I slept in my truck. Grace came to the window, holding a baby. Derek sat on the couch behind her, a beer in hand, oblivious. From the outside, they looked like the picture-perfect family. But I knew better now. And I finally realized something that chilled me. Grace didn't just cheat because she was lonely. She did it because she was greedy. She wanted comfort, attention, security. She'd used Derek like she used me. And when she got bored of him, she'd use someone else. I started gathering evidence, printed records, forged signatures, bank transfers. Not out of rage anymore. Out of purpose. Because revenge wasn't about hurting them anymore. It was about ending their hold on me. Weeks later, I got an email. No subject line, no message body. Just a photo attachment. Brooke. Standing by the school fence. Taken from a distance. Below it, one line typed in all caps. You deserve each other. Grace. And that's when I understood, she wasn't done destroying me. If she couldn't have me miserable, she'd make sure no one else could. But I'd been through real wars before. And this time, I wasn't coming unarmed. I'd seen plenty of liars in uniform, but none wore betrayal as neatly as Derek. When I found those forged documents, I didn't feel rage, just cold focus. He'd stolen my money, my name, and tried to take my home. Grace had signed off on it like it was a love letter. I hired a lawyer. Old school type. Quiet voice, sharp eyes. He took one look at the evidence and said, "They're amateurs. You'll bury them." Good. I was done bleeding. The courtroom was small, but the silence felt heavy. Grace walked in first, her white blazer spotless, expression rehearsed. Derek followed, cheap suit, fake confidence. I didn't look at them. I just waited. My lawyer stood, calm as stone, and laid everything out, the fake signatures, the stolen transfers, even the timestamps matching Derek's logins. When the judge compared my real signature to the forged one, she frowned. "Mr. Miller, care to explain this?" Derek stammered. Grace tried to interrupt. The judge waved her off. By the time it was over, they were both pale. The ruling was swift, full ownership of the house returned to me, the stolen funds reimbursed, criminal charges pending. Derek's lawyer whispered something about settlement. I didn't respond. Some things don't get settled, they just end. As we left, Grace caught my arm. "You didn't have to do this," she hissed. I met her eyes. "Neither did you." She had no answer. That night, I drove back to the house, the one I'd left behind like a battlefield. The air inside was still. The furniture looked staged, untouched. I walked from room to room, not to reclaim anything, but to say goodbye. In the kitchen drawer, I found one of Grace's old letters, the kind she used to send me overseas. It ended with, "Come home safe. I need you." I burned it in the sink. I didn't need ghosts anymore. A week later, Brooke texted. "I heard what happened. Can we talk?" I almost didn't reply. But some voices you don't silence, no matter how much you've ruined. We met at the park, same bench where we'd first talked about starting over. She looked tired, guarded, like someone trying not to care but failing. "I saw the reports," she said. Grace lied. "About everything." I nodded. "That's her gift." She looked at me. "You could have told me the truth from the start." "I know. You used me." "I did," I admitted. "At first. But I fell for you before I even realized it. Then I was too ashamed to tell you." She stayed silent for a long time. "You broke something in me, Cole." I lowered my head. "Then let me help fix it." She gave a small, tired laugh. "I don't need fixing." "I know," I said softly. "I just want to stop being the man who breaks things." That made her look up. Her eyes weren't soft, not yet, but they weren't cold anymore either. She sighed. "You still owe me a coffee." That was how it started again. Not a kiss. Not forgiveness. Just coffee. It wasn't perfect. She didn't trust easily, and I didn't blame her. But over time, the silence between us started feeling less like punishment and more like peace. She saw the man beneath the wreckage, not a soldier, not an ex-husband, not a revenge story. Just a man trying to be better. Months later, we signed papers again. This time, a marriage license, 2 signatures that were real. No audience, no speeches. Just us, and a clerk who smiled without asking questions. When we stepped outside, it started to rain. Brooke laughed and said, "Figures. You finally get peace and the world still tests you." I told her, "Rain's fine. I've fought in worse." Sometimes I see Grace's name online. Quotes about self-growth, filtered selfies, fake smiles. Derek's mugshot disappeared into the noise. She's back to pretending. And that's her punishment, the endless pretending. Mine is remembering. But at least memory doesn't lie. People think revenge feels like victory. It doesn't. It's just the quiet after an explosion, and you're still standing in the smoke, realizing there's no one left to fight. Brooke once asked me, "Do you ever think you went to war twice?" I said, "Yeah. The first one took my innocence. The second took my heart." She smiled. "And what did you get back?" I looked at her hand in mine. Myself. A few weeks ago, I found that old wedding photo, me, Grace, Derek. I almost tore it apart. Instead, I flipped it over and wrote one line. "The war ends when you stop shooting back." Then I put it away, not as a memory, as proof. Because this time, I didn't win. I just stopped losing.